This is the Xiaomi Mi 11. It is the world's first ever smartphone to be using the brand new Snapdragon 888 chipset. And of course, it is a highly anticipated smartphone, partly because of just the chipset alone. So anyway, we got about a week to spend with this phone, and there are a lot of things that we want to share with you about the Xiaomi Mi 11. So this review of the Xiaomi Mi 11 will be similar to what we did in our previous smartphone review, so it will be split into a total of 6 different parts. And of course, this time we'll be starting off with the performance, because a lot of people are wondering how is it gonna perform with the Snapdragon 888. So the Mi 11 that we have here is the global version of the smartphone, so all of the specs are actually the same, it's just that the packaging in the box is different. But anyway, the one that we have here is with 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage, and of course with that Snapdragon 888 chipset. I'm just gonna breeze through the benchmarks because you already know how this phone is performing, and what I really want to highlight here is of course the gaming experience, because benchmarks do not reflect the gaming experience, so check it out at the top right corner there because we got a separate video talking about just the gaming experience on the Xiaomi Mi 11. But for this video, what I really want to highlight here is the heat issue. Yes, this phone gets hot, but no, it doesn't overheat itself to the point where it's just gonna stop working entirely. It only happens during 3D Mark Wildlife Stress Test Benchmark, which is an unrealistic representation of how someone will use their phone. So if you're gonna buy the Mi 11 and use it on a day-to-day basis, then don't worry, it's not gonna overheat. But with that said though, the Snapdragon 888 in the Xiaomi Mi 11 warms up the entire phone rather quickly, which, for example, let's just say I'm scrolling through Facebook, because I always use these kind of review phones to do the Facebook test actually, because Facebook is a rather heavy app. So scrolling through Facebook, I do realize that the Xiaomi Mi 11 gets warm really quickly. And to be honest with you, that is actually very reminiscent of the Samsung's Exynos 990 chipset. Yes, the infamous Exynos 990 chipset from a year ago, where it also got hot when scrolling through Facebook. And then of course the next thing that we need to talk about is the screen. The Xiaomi Mi 11 has a 6.81-inch AMOLED screen, which Xiaomi has boasted quite a lot during their presentation, so we decided to test out their claims as well. So since we got a colorimeter with us, we decided to take a deep dive into its color profile. So by looking at just the settings available on this phone, we have very vaguely named color profiles, for example saturated and original color. I have no idea what they mean, so we decided to just test them out. And first of all, this display can go up to about nearly 500 nits of brightness and nearly 100% in the sRGB and DCI-P3 color gamut, which also has a pretty high delta E as well. And then changing the color profile to enhanced, we can see that the color gamut coverage is pretty much the same, but it has a much lower delta E number, hence better color accuracy throughout the board. But if you want a more standardized color profile, you can head into the advanced setting option inside this menu here, and then you can select sRGB color profile. From our test, yes, it is virtually covering 100% of the sRGB color gamut, and it also has a high color accuracy number too, because the delta E number is just really low. And good job Xiaomi, because the screen on the Xiaomi Mi 11 is beautiful and it can go up to 1440p in resolution at 120Hz refresh rate, which is actually the same as the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra. And then comes the battery. Well, to juice up all of its power-hungry hardware, Xiaomi stuck in a 4600 mAh battery, which is relatively still considered to be big in today's flagship smartphone standards. Anyway, we tested the battery life at 100 nits for 1080p at 60Hz, 1080p at 120Hz, and then 1440p at 60Hz, and finally 1440p at 120Hz. It shows a similar behavior with the Exynos 2100 and the Galaxy S21 Ultra, because when you scale up in resolution, the battery life doesn't get affected that much, but when you scale from 60 to 120Hz, then it really hit the battery hard. Now, as for the charger though, of course, the one that we have here is the global version of the Mi 11, so you can see the box is a lot thicker. So yes, there is a charger included. 55 watts GAN charger to be precise. Well, we've already talked about the Mi 11's charger situation in a separate video, So I really suggest you to watch that video at the top right corner there. And just as a summary, it's taking about 40 minutes to charge from 15 to 100% using that proprietary 55 watts GaN charger protocol, and I would say it's pretty good. But after spending so much time with the Xiaomi Mi 11, honestly, I'm not a fan of the charger, mainly because it's a 55 watts charger instead of a 65 watts charger, and it is also using a proprietary charging standard. And then comes the cameras. Well, the Xiaomi Mi 11 comes with a total of 3 different cameras that you can use to take pictures with. We have the standard camera, ultra-wide-angle camera, and then a dedicated macro camera. The Xiaomi Mi 11 can take some pretty good looking pictures, no doubt, and the main camera is magnificent. Be it indoors or outdoors, the Xiaomi Mi 11's main camera is gonna take some fantastic photos. As for the ultra-wide-angle camera though, it's pretty standard, and while it does have a fixed focus lens like many other smartphones out there, it can take some pretty decent ultra-wide-angle shots overall, and that's it. But what I'm really excited here is the macro camera on this phone. The macro camera on the Mi 11 is exactly the same as the Poco F2 Pro, which we have reviewed late last year, I think, somewhere around there. And honestly, I really miss this macro camera. I can take extreme close-ups, and thanks to its autofocus and 5 megapixel sensor, all of those macro shots come out really clean, and it's just beautiful. Though I do wish Xiaomi to add at least an EIS feature into the macro camera, because currently my shaky hands, they make the macro shots kind of blurry. In the video department, the Mi 11 puts a heavy emphasis on movie magic and added a brand new camera mode called Movie Effects. There are a total of 5 different movie effects that you can choose from, and it automatically creates a video for you based on what effect you have selected. These are pretty fun modes, honestly, so you can create some fancy looking videos and post them into social media right on the phone itself, which I think is something that a lot of people are looking forward to do. The video capability of the Xiaomi Mi 11 is pretty much the same as before. It can still capture videos at up to 4K 60fps or 8K at 30fps. But we should also mention that the Xiaomi Mi 11 is still using a USB 2.0 port at the bottom here. So copying out those videos to your PC or laptop will take forever. Now, as for the software, the Xiaomi Mi 11 still uses MIUI 12, which is pretty much the same as any other Xiaomi smartphones that we've reviewed previously. And MIUI 12 is still a mess, especially with that settings menu, which is unnecessarily complicated and has a lot of related settings scattered all around. For example, if you want to set your timeout display, it's not actually in the display menu, it's located somewhere else. Even the camera app is confusing and inconsistent. I'd expect the macro mode to be placed inside the camera menu, the list of modes available, but no, it's inside a drop-down menu inside photo mode and also video mode. Yet somehow, macro mode is not under the drop-down menu while in Pro Photo mode. What? Xiaomi also promises MIUI 12.5 in the coming months, but there are only a few key highlights that are shown on Xiaomi's website as of now. And finally, we need to talk about the design of the Xiaomi Mi 11. The Mi 11 has a pretty nice design and overall very thin. So for me, holding this phone reminds me of a trapezoid shape. This is how it looks like. Of course, it's an exaggerated 2D cutout shape of this phone, but you pretty much get the idea. But instead of having sharp trapezoid corners, of course this phone has rounded corners of a trapezoid shape. The overall thinness makes the Xiaomi Mi 11 fantastic to hold, and the back is just magnificent to look at, yet stylish at the same time. But the phone also has a stereo speaker tuned by Harman Kardon, and sure, the Xiaomi Mi 11 speakers sound great, but they are top firing and bottom firing speakers or side firing speakers. Anyway, they still sound fantastic, but what you need to take note of is that when you're playing music or playing games, anything with audio, the whole back of the phone here will vibrate a lot. So, overall, the Xiaomi Mi 11, is it good or is it not? Honestly speaking, I really like the Xiaomi Mi 11 for a few reasons. Firstly, the cameras. I really like all of its cameras, especially the macro camera, which I had a lot of fun with. Its thinness of this phone makes it really comfortable to hold and also put in and take it out of my pocket. And number 3, speakers and the screens are amazing. but also thanks to two of these aspects, it makes this phone really amazing phone for media consumption. But here's what not good about this phone though. Of course, I need to mention again about the Snapdragon 888 chipset. It just warms up the phone way too quickly, and of course one of the main reasons to buy all of these latest, greatest flagship smartphones is to play the highest end game available in the Google Play Store, for example, Genshin Impact. But because this chipset overheats the phone a lot, that makes Genshin Impact at the highest graphical settings really uncomfortable to deal with, which makes me not recommend you to get this phone if you want to play Genshin Impact at the highest graphical settings. Like what we mentioned in the gaming video of the Xiaomi Mi 11, Xiaomi can take a short-term solution to fix this issue by introducing an update and lowering the thermal throttling threshold temperature to a bit lower so that it will thermal throttle easier and earlier, but at the cost of performance. So the Snapdragon 888 wouldn't get its full potential, but of course the user wouldn't get uncomfortable as well. So all in all, the Xiaomi Mi 11 is still a fantastic phone, but just not for high-end gaming, which I think is kind of unfortunate. So if you want to play some high-end games with the brand new Snapdragon 888, I suggest you to wait maybe for another high-end Xiaomi's phone with the Snapdragon 888 chipset. Anyway, that's all we have for you today. The price of the Xiaomi Mi 11 that we have here is starting at 2,799. If you want to get the 256 gigs version, you have to fork out 2,999 ringgit, which I still think is a pretty fair price for what it has to offer. And yeah, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section below. We'll answer them whenever we can, and we'll see you guys in the next video.